The Karluks, Arabic Qarluq, were a prominent nomadic Turkic tribal confederacy residing in the regions of Kara-Irtysh and the Tarbagatai Mountains, west of the Altay Mountains in Central Asia. They were also known as the Gelolu. They were closely related to the Uyghurs. Karluks gave the name to the distinct Karluk group of the Turkic languages, which also includes the Uyghur, Uzbek, and Ili Turki languages. Karluks were known as a coherent ethnic group with autonomous status within the Göktürk Khaganate and the independent states of the Qarluq Yabgu and Kara-Irtysh, before being absorbed in the Chagatai Khanate of the Mongol Empire. Etymology. The most ancient reference to the etymology of the Qarluq name is recorded in the Chinese dynastic history Old Book of Tang, which names Qarluks as Gelolu and traces the name to the word Qarluq. Kar means snow, as in the name of the Kar Sea. Aristoph noted the river Karluk, a tributary of the Cherish River, proposing that the tribal name originated from the toponym with a Turkic meaning of wild millet. The reverse is equally possible. The toponyms were named after an ethnonym of the native people. Another version cites the homonym of the Qarluq Valley in Altay. The derivation of Qarluq from Kara is considered to be philologically impossible, and incompatible with the well-documented Arabic form of the ethnonym Halu. History. Early history. The first Chinese reference to the Qarluks labels them with the Manichaean attribute, Lion Qarluks. The Lion Qarluks persisted up to the time of the Mongols. In the early Middle Age, organized as the Uchkarluks Union, composed of Qarluks, Chigils, and Yagma tribes. They were members of the Göktürk Khaganate. After the split of the Khaganate around 600 into the western and eastern Khaganates, the Uchkarluks remained in the western Turkic Khaganate under a non-autonomous home rule. As the members of the 5 Teli tribes that did not receive autonomy, the Qarluq, Jagma, Kipchak, Basmail and Chuban. In 630, the Arukigan of the eastern Turkic Khaganate was captured by the Chinese. His heir apparent, the Lesser Khan Kubo, escaped to Altai with a major part of the people and 30,000 soldiers. He conquered the Qarluks in the west, the Kirga in the north, and took the title Ichduchebi Khan. The Qarluks allied with the Tl and their leaders the Uyghurs against the Turkic Khaganate, and participated in enthroning the victorious head of the Uyghur. After that, a smaller part of the Qarluks joined the Uyghurs and settled in the Bogdo-Ola Mountains in Mongolia. The larger part settled in the area between Altai and the eastern Tian Shan. In 650, at the time of the submission to the Chinese, the Qarluks had 3 tribes: Mulo, Chizi, and Tashili. On paper, the Qarluq divisions received Chinese names as Chinese provinces, and the leaders received Chinese state titles. Later, the Qarluq spread from the valley of the river Karluk along the Irtysh River in the western part of the Altai to beyond the Black Irtysh, Tarbagatai, and towards the Tian Shan. By the year 665, the Qarluq Union was led by a former Uchkarluk Bey with the title Kul-Urkan, now titled Jabgu, who had a powerful army. The Qarluq vanguard left the Altai region and at the beginning of the 8th century reached the banks of the Amu Darya, famed for the woven carpets in the pre-Muslim era. They were considered a vassal state by the Tang dynasty after the final conquest of the Transoxania regions by the Chinese around 744. The Qarluq rose in rebellion against the Göktürk, then the dominant tribal confederation in the region, in about 745, and established a new tribal confederation with the Uyghur and Basmail tribes. They remained in the Chinese sphere of influence and an active participant in fighting the Muslim expansion into the area, up until the split from the Tang in 751. Chinese intervention in the affairs of Western Turkestan ceased after the defeat at the Battle of Talas in 751 by the Arab general Ziyad ibn Saleh. The Arabs dislodged the Qarluks from Fergana in 766 after they overran the Turkish in Jadisu. The Qarluk tribes formed a khanate under the rule of a Yabgu, occupied Suyab and transferred the capital there. By the time the bulk of the tribe had left the Altai and the supremacy in Jadisu passed to the Qarluks, the ruler with the title Yabgu is often mentioned in the Orkhon inscriptions. In Pahlavi texts, one of the Qarluk rulers of Turkestan was called Jabu Hakan. The fall of the Western Turkic Khaganate left Jadisu in the possession of Turkic peoples, independent of either Arabs or Chinese. In 822 the Uyghurs sent 4 Qarluks as tribute to Tang dynasty China. Culture: the Qarluks were hunters, nomadic herdsmen, and agriculturists. They settled in the countryside and in the cities, which were centered on trading posts along the caravan roads. The Qarluks inherited a vast multi-ethnic region whose diverse population was not much different from its rulers. Jadisu was populated by the Turkish, who were divided into 2 tribes, the Tukshi and the Azes mentioned in the Orkhon inscriptions. The remnants of the Uyghurs Turks, whose main body had moved to the west, becoming the Chateau Turks, and interspersed with the Sogdian colonies. The southern part of Jadisu was occupied by the Yagma people, who also held Kashgar. In the north and west lived the Kankalas. A separate significant division of the Qarluks were the Chijils, a tribe that had detached from the Qarluk. They resided around Isikul. The diverse population adhered to a spectrum of religious beliefs. The Qarluks and the majority of the Turkic population professed Tengrianism, considered as shamanism and heathen by the Christians and Muslims. Chijils were Christians of the Nestorian denomination. The majority of the Tokhas, with the Khan, were Manichaeans, but there were also Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims among them. The peaceful penetration of Muslim culture through commercial relations played a far more important role in their conversion than Muslim arms. The merchants were followed by missionaries of various creeds, including Nestorian Christians. Many Turkestan towns had Christian churches. The Turks held sacred the Qashtek Mountains, believing to be an abode of the deity. Each creed carried its script, resulting in a variety of used scripts, including Turkic Runiform, Sogdian, Syriac, and later the Uyghur. The Qarluks had adopted and developed the Turkic literary language of Khorizm, established in Bukhara and Samarkand, which after Mongol conquest became known as the Chagatai language. Of all Turkic peoples, the Qarluk were most open to the influence of Muslim culture. Jacobi reported the conversion of the Qarluk Yabgu to Islam under Caliph Mahdi, and by the 10th century, several towns to the east of Talas had mosques. Muslim culture had affected the general way of life of the Qarluks. During the next 3 centuries, the Qarluk Yabgu state occupied a key position on the choice international trade route, fighting off mostly Turkic competitors to retain the prime position. The biggest adversaries were Kangas in the northwest and Tokhas in the southeast, with the period of Samanid raids to Jadisu in 840 to 894. But even in the heyday of the Qarluk Yabgu state, parts of its domains were in the hands of the Tokhas, and later under Kyrgyz and Khitan control, increasing the ethnical, religious, and political diversity. Social organization. The state of Qarluk Yabgu was an association of semi-independent districts and cities, each equipped with its own militia. The biggest was the capital Suyab, which could turn out 20,000 warriors, and among other districts the town of Beglerig had 10,000 warriors. Panjukat could turn out 8,000 warriors, Barskan 6,000 warriors, and Yar 3,000 warriors. The titles of the petty rulers were Kutakan of the Karluk Laban clan in Karminkat, Takzan in Jil, Taban Barskan in Barskan, Turkic Yindal Tegan and Sogdian Badan Sangu in Beglerig. The Prince of Suyab, situated north of the Chu River in the Turkish land, was a brother of one of the Goktur Khans, but bore the Persian title Yalan Shah i.e. King of Heroes. Muslim authors describe in detail the trade route from Western Asia to China across Chetisu, mentioning many cities. Some bore double names, both Turkic and Sogdian. They wrote about the capital cities of Balasagun, Suyab, and Qarluq, in which William of Rubruck saw 3 Buddhist temples in the Muslim town for the first time. The geographers also mention Taraz, Navakat, Atbash, Isikul, Barskan, Panjukat, Akshikit, Beglerig, Al-Maluk, Dul, Yartun, Panchul, and others. Kyrgyz period. Prior to the Kyrgyz-Uyghur War of 829 to 840, the Kyrgyz lived in the upper basin of the Yenisei River. Linguistically, the language, together with the Altai language, belongs to a separate Kyrgyz group of the Turkic language family. At the time they had an estimated population of 250,000 and an army of 50,000. Kyrgyz victory in the war brought them to the Karluk door. They captured Tuva, Altai, a part of Dzungaria, and reached Kashgar, allied with the Karluks against the Uyghurs. In the 840s the Kyrgyz started the occupation of that part of Chetisu which is the present home. Karluk independence ended around 840. They fell from dominating the tribal association to a subordinate position. The Kyrgyz remained a power in Chetisu until the destruction by the Kara-Irtysh in 1124, when most of them evacuated from the center in Tuva back to the Minus-Insk depression, leaving the Karluks to predominate again in Chetisu. The position of the Karluk state, based on the rich Chetisu cities, remained strong, despite the failures in wars in the beginning of the 9th century. Jabgu was enriched by profitable trade in slaves on the Sirdarya slave markets, selling guards for the Abbasid caliphs, and control over the transit road to China in the sector from Taraz to Isikul. The Karluk position in Fergana, despite Arab attempts to expel them, became stronger. The fall of the last Khagan with its capital in Otukan, which dominated for 3 centuries, created a completely new geopolitical situation in all Central Asia. For the first time in 300 years, the powerful center of authority that created opportunities for expansion or even existence of any state in Turkestan had finally disappeared. Henceforth, the Turkic tribes recognized only the high status of the clan that inherited the Khagan title, but never again has unifying authority. Several Muslim historians state that after the loss by the Uyghurs of the power, the supreme authority among the Turkic tribes passed to the Karluk leaders. Connection with the Ashina clan, the ruling clan of the Turkic Khaganate, allowed the Karluk dynasty to dress their authority with legitimate attire, and, abandoning the old title Yabgu, to take on the new title of Khagan. Kara-Khanate period. Towards 940 the heathen Jagma from the southern border seized the Chu Valley and the Karluk capital Balasagun. The Yagma ruler bore the title Bogra Khan, very common among Kara-Khanids. The Yagma quickly proceeded to take control of all Karluk lands. In the 10th and 12th centuries, the lands on both sides of the principal chain of the Tian Shan were united under the rule of the Kara-Khanate Khans, or simply Kara-Khanids. The Kara-Khanate state was divided into fiefs which soon became independent.
The Kara-Khanate was founded in the 9th century from a confederation of Karluks, Chijils, Jagmas, and other tribes. Later in the 10th century, a Kara-Khanate Sultan Sutik Bufra Khan converted to Islam. His son Musa made Islam a state religion in 960. The empire occupied modern northern Iran and parts of Central Asia. This region remained under Kara Khanate, and for varying periods it remained an independent vassal of Seljuk and Kara Khitan. The Kara Khanate ended when the last ruler of its western Khanate was killed by the Khwarezmids in 1212. Both the Kara-Khitans and the Khwarezmids were later destroyed by the Mongol invasion. The name Kakania was given to the Qarluks who inhabited Kashgar and Balasaran. The inhabitants were not Uyghur, however, the language has been retroactively labeled as Uyghur by scholars. Qatar Period. At the beginning of the 10th century, a tribe related to the Mongols, the Khitans, with an admixture of Mongols, founded a vast empire, stretching from the Pacific to Lake Baikal and the Tian Shan, displacing the Turkic population. The Khitan language has been classified as Para-Mongolic, distantly related to the Mongolic languages of the Mongols. Reportedly, the first Gurkhan was a Manichaean, owing to its long sway over China. The ruling dynasty, which the 24 histories call the Liao dynasty, was strongly influenced by Chinese culture. In 1125, a Tungusic people, the Jurchen, allied with the southern Song, ending the domination of the Khitan. The Khitan exiles, headed by Gelolu They, a member of the Khitan royal family, migrated to the west. The Khitan settled in the Tarbagatai Mountains east of Shetisu, and the number grew to 40,000 tents. Around 1130, the local Kara Khanate ruler of Balasagun asked for their aid against the hostile Kankali and Karluks. The Khitan occupied Balasaran, expelled the weak Kara Khanate ruler, and founded their own state, which stretched from the Yenisei to Taraz. They then conquered Kankali and subdued Xinjiang. In 1137, near Ujand, they defeated the Transoxanian Kara Khanate ruler Mahmud Khan, who then appealed to the suzerain the Seljuks for help. The Kara-Khitans, who were also invited by the Khwarezmians to conquer the lands of the Seljuks, as well as in response to an appeal to intervene by the Karluks, who were involved in a conflict with the Kara Khanids, then advanced to Samarkand. In 1141, the Seljuks under Ahmad Sunj also arrived in Samarkand with his army, but was defeated by the Kara-Khitans in the Battle of Katwan, after which the Kara-Khitans became dominant in Transoxania. The Western Khitan state became known under its Turkic name. The Kara-Khitan Khanate and the ruler bore the Turkic title Gurkhan, Khan's son-in-law. The original Qarluq confederation became split between the Kara Khanate state in the west and the Kara-Khitai state in the east, lasting until the Mongol invasion. Both in the west and east, Qarluq principalities retained their autonomous status and indigenous rulers, though in Kara-Khitai the Qarluq Khan, like the ruler of Samarkand, was forced to accept the presence of a permanent representative of the Gurkhan. The Gurkhans administered limited territories populated in 1170 by 84,500 families under direct rule. The Gurkhans' headquarters was called Kosanordu, or Kartu. The Qarluq capital was Qarluq. The Kara Khanates continued to rule over Transoxania and western Xinjiang. The Kara-Khitans did not interfere with the religion of the people, but Islam became less dominant as the other religions took advantage of the new freedom to increase the number of their adherents. The Nestorian patriarch Elias III founded a religious metropole in Kashgar. The Kara-Khitai metropolitan bore the
the title Metropolitan of Kashgar and Navakat, showing that the See of Kashgar also controlled the southern part of Shetisu. The oldest Nestorian tombs in the Tokmak and Pishpek cemeteries go back to the epoch of Kara-Irtysh domination. Ata Malikuveni, however, stressed the oppression of Muslims by Qarluq, a son of the last Nayman Khan who was ousted by Mongolia by Genghis Khan. The Nayman Nestorian Christian Qarluq usurped the throne of the Kara-Irtysh. In 1211, a Mongol detachment under the command of Kublai no Yon, one of Genghis Khan's generals, appeared in the northern part of Shetisu. Arslan Khan Qarluq killed the Kara-Irtysh governor of Qarluq and proclaimed his loyalty to Genghis Khan. The Shetisu, together with eastern Turkestan, voluntarily surrendered to the Mongols. Qarluq was killed by the invading Mongols in 1218. Mongol era. In the 1211, a Mongol detachment under command of Kublai no Yon, one of Genghis Khan's generals, appeared in the northern part of Shetisu. Arslan Khan Qarluq, probably the son of Arslan Khan and brother of Mumdu Khan, killed the Khitan governor of Qarluq and proclaimed his loyalty to Genghis Khan. The collection of annals records that Genghis Khan removed his title from Qarluq. Arslan Khan, "Let your name be Sartiktai, i.e., Sart," said the sovereign. After the absorption of the Kara Khanate by the Chagatai Khanate, the ethnonym Qarluq became rarely used. The Qarluq language was the primary basis for the later lingua franca of the Chagatai Khanate and Central Asia under the Timurid dynasty. It is therefore designated by linguists and historians as the Chagatai language, but its contemporaries, such as Timur and Babur, simply called it Turkic. Modern period. In the 20th century, the geopolitical great game among great powers demanded the creation of modern nationalities among Central Asian Turks. The ethnonym Qarluq was not revived. Instead, Uzbek and Uyghur became the two major divisions among speakers of modern variants of the Chagatai language. Under these two modern nationalities, there are subgroups like the Uyghur Dolan, Ainu, and several regional populations of Uzbeks. Some of the Uzbeks share more similarities with Kipchak groups like the Karakalpak and Kazakhs, or with the Iranian Tajiks, than with fellow Uzbeks who speak a descendant of the Qarluq language. Qarluqs are living in different countries outside Central Asia as well, i.e., Qarluqs of Kashmir and Qarluq Turks of Hazara, Haripur, Mankarai, Natopur, Farhari, Bayan Ahmed Ali Khan, Sarai Nemat Khan, Shingri and Lower Tanawal area, Abbottabad and Mansehra districts of Pakistan.